You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Assistant Secretary, David, welcome back. Good to see you. In my role as the chair of the Digital Commerce and Consumer Protection Subcommittee, we've done great work on clearing the regulatory path for self-driving vehicles. We also need to clear a path for increased access to spectrum. It's going to be new wireless 5G tech networks that drive some technology solutions supporting self-driving cars. Would you tell me how much more spectrum 5G networks we will need, and do you have any time frame within which we need to make available a certain amount of spectrum to ensure the advancements like self-driving cars become a reality?
Well, Mr. Latta, I wish it was a question that lent itself to a simple answer, but it doesn't. We're constantly reevaluating how much spectrum is needed, both for government operations and for commercial operations, and that's the heart of our spectrum mandate. Self-driving cars are a unique mission, but they're another mission. And so as we look at all of the things that we are asked to accommodate, we're working across the federal government with our colleagues at the Department of Transportation and certainly with our FCC colleagues to try and figure out ways to make this a reality. Most of the self-driving car systems that have been considered to date are a hodgepodge of different systems. We don't anticipate that changing. The spectrum at 5.9 that has been allocated to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is part of that puzzle. We certainly look forward to continuing to engage with them to try and help self-driving cars become a reality.
Okay, well, thank you. Also, with tax season upon us and fraudulent filings on the rise, I've been concerned with an issue faced by a lot of the certified public accountants out there and how the Internet Committee for Assigned Names and Numbers manages the award of generic top-level domains. I've highlighted one particular example that is one of my concerns, which involves how the CPA organizations were not awarded the .cpa domain. Would you share any thoughts or insights about how ICANN manages the domain name process, and if you are able to raise your general specific concerns or observations with them directly? Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Latta. I'm very familiar with the .cpa issue, both from my time here and now my time at NTIA. The certified public accountants had applied through through ICANN's process for the generic top-level domain .cpa, and that has been an ongoing process for quite some time. My staff is engaging actively with the CPAs to try and find a resolution. As our role on the ICANN Governmental Advisory Committee, we'll stand up for U.S. interests, and in this case, this is one of those interests. ICANN is holding one of its meetings next week in Puerto Rico. I plan to be in attendance, and I have a scheduled meeting with the CPAs to try to see if we can figure out a way to get this resolved through the ICANN process as expeditiously as possible.
That'd be great, thank you. In terms of the next steps in broadband mapping, what do you propose can be done about identifying locations unserved by broadband service? You know, there's been a lot of work done by this subcommittee and also with the working group concerned about broadband out there, especially in our rural areas. Have you identified other government agencies, processes, or public utilities that can help you geolocate and those target specific unserved addresses or locations to better understand the demand in those more remote parts of our country?
Sure. So the President's request for additional funding for NTIA for mapping is not just to produce a map, but also to produce an assessment of broadband capabilities and provide a tool for policymakers both here on the Hill and across the executive branch to better target the funds that are allocated to broadband. Our approach, should we have the additional funding, would be to not only look at the existing data sets, but go to try and find additional data sets. By overlaying that data across different commercial products, you're able to take a look and see where there are discrepancies. And typically that is the way you figure out where you're gonna need to do validation. We've had a lot of experience doing validation of data, and we have an extensive set of relationships through our State Broadband Leaders Network with folks at the state and local level who have continued the mapping work at the state level throughout the last couple of years. Minnesota is a great example of that. They've continued doing this mapping work, and incorporating that data, that boots on the ground validated data, would be part of what we would like to do if we are, again, put into the job of doing mapping.
Well, thank you. And again, it's really important as you go forward to always remember looking at the unserved versus the underserved areas, because there's a lot of our areas in our districts that are totally unserved right now, so I appreciate that. And Madam Chair, my time has expired, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields